Hola y bienvenido a Learn Spanish en SpanishDict.com. Soy Paralee Whitmire y soy tu profesora. Hoy aprenderás los verbos como gustar y los colores como le encantan las rosas rojas, te molesta la araña marrón y mucho más. ¡Vámonos! Sé que sabes mucho del español ahora, pero hay cosas que merecen repaso, como los verbos como gustar. Recuerda que gustar no funciona como un verbo normal, donde se conjuga el verbo para el sujeto, sino que se conjuga el verbo para el objeto. And I use quotations there because what we think of as the subject is actually the object, and what is the object in our minds is actually the subject. Remember? Me gusta bailar. I like to dance. Or, to me, dancing is pleasing. Te gusta bailar. You like to dance. Or literally, to you, dancing is pleasing. Les gusta bailar. They like to dance. Or to them, dancing is pleasing. In our minds, the subject seems like I, you, and they, but it is really dancing. So gustar is conjugated to the third person singular each time, no matter what person is involved. What does change depending on the person is the indirect object pronoun. ¿Recuerdas todos los pronombres de los objetos indirectos? Espero que sí, porque hay una prueba. ¿Qué es el objeto indirecto para a mí? Or to me, as in a mí, blank, gusta la flor amarilla. Me. ¿Qué es el objeto indirecto para a ti? Or to you, as in a ti, blank, gusta la camisa azul. Te. ¿Y qué es el objeto indirecto para a él? To him, a ella, to her, or a usted, to you, as in a ella, blank, gusta el bolso violeto. Le. Y para a nosotros, blank, gusta el conejo beige. Nos. Y para a vosotros, or to you, plural, as in, a vosotros, blank, gusta el cerdito rosa. Vos. And something to notice here is that rosa is one of the very few adjectives that end in an A in its natural state, or singular masculine form. This means that you could use rosa for both singular feminine and singular masculine nouns. Another adjective that ends in an A in its natural form is cara, which means every. Cada mujer, every woman. Cada hombre, every man. Another color that does not change its ending in the singular form is marrón, the word for brown. You can have el conejo marrón or la araña marrón. Vale, seguimos con el último pronombre de objetos indirectos, la tercera persona plural. ¿Qué es el objeto indirecto para a ellos, to them, a ellas, to them, or a ustedes, to you, plural, as in, a ellos, blank, gusta el conejo marrón. Les. So all of your indirect object pronouns are me, te, le, nos, vos, y les. You remember all those, right? I want to remind you that the a mí, a ti, a ella part is just for clarification and isn't necessary unless you're emphasizing the object. You can have a mí me gusta or just me gusta. Both are correct and mean something is pleasing to me. So let's move on to the verbs that work like gustar. Like I said before, the verb is conjugated to what seems like the object in our minds, when it is actually the subject. It may help to read the sentences literally until you get the hang of these verb types. Let's take a look at a few new verbs that function like gustar. Me interesa la computadora portátil gris. The gray laptop is interesting to me. First, start by finding the subject. La computadora portátil, a third-person singular noun, and then conjugate the verb to that subject. Interesa, third-person singular. Now, the gray laptop is interesting to me, says the puppy. So to me is our indirect object phrase. So we would use me. Me, to me, interesa, is interesting, la computadora portátil gris, the gray laptop. Just a little backwards from what you're used to. Let's look at a few more. Te repugnan los espárragos verdes. Los espárragos is the subject, which is third person plural. So repugnar, to disgust, has to be conjugated to the third person plural. And the object is you. The asparagus are disgusting to you. A ti. So you would put the indirect object pronoun, te, right in front of the verb. Uno más. Le encantan las rosas rojas. What is the subject? Las rosas. And what is the verb? Encantar, which has to be conjugated to the third person plural, since rosas is also third person plural. Now, who is the object? The woman, so you would use le, the indirect object pronoun for a ella. No es terrible, ¿no? ¿Quieres hacer unas para práctica? I'll give you a sentence with the verb in parentheses. You need to first conjugate the verb to the subject, and then fill in the blank in front of the verb with the correct indirect object pronoun. ¿Listo? A mí, fascinar, las mariposas naranjas y negras. Orange and black butterflies fascinate me. Me fascinan las mariposas naranjas y negras. A ellos, encantar las flores moradas. Purple flowers delight them. Les encantan las flores moradas. A nosotros, molestar la araña marrón. The brown spider annoys us. Nos molesta la araña marrón. A ella, gustar los tulipanes blancos. White tulips are pleasing to her. Le gustan los tulipanes blancos. ¡Qué bien! I think you got it. Just remember that this is no different than when you learned about verbs that require an indirect object. It's just that these words in English don't require an indirect object, but they do in Spanish. These verbs are a little sneaky when you look them up in the dictionary, so it is best to familiarize yourself with a list of verbs that follow this pattern. You can, of course, find many of these verbs in the article on verbs like gustar in the grammar section of the reference page. Another little note before you head to the practice section, just in case you want to get a little creative in your color descriptions. In Spanish, to make a color lighter, like light blue or light green, you would use the adjective claro. Azul claro. Verde claro. And to make a color darker, use the adjective oscuro. Azul oscuro. Verde oscuro. It works with pretty much all the colors, even if some already have a dedicated word, like pink or light red can be rosa or rojo claro. Lavender can be violeta or morado claro. Vale, es todo para hoy. Make sure you download our video podcast from iTunes so you can study this and all the other lessons on the go. And of course, you can always study all the vocabulary in this lesson at SpanishDict.com. There, you'll find the picture flashcards, the quizzes, the writing and speaking practice, the forum, and video chat. As always, everything at SpanishDict.com is completely free, so check it out. Until next time, hasta luego y nos vemos.